Millionaire laughed at Single Mechanic. But what he did with her car shocked everyone. Rebecca Mitchell never imagined that a simple problem with her imported car's engine would change her life forever. The 42-year-old businesswoman was used to solving everything with money, but this time would be different. The engine failed right on Oak Street, a busy road in the Hope Village neighborhood, south side of Chicago. Rebecca looked around with disdain. Simple houses, local shops, and people who clearly weren't part of her social circle. She urgently needed to get to the office for a meeting that would define a $15 million deal. She couldn't waste time in that place. "How infuriating. Right here," she murmured, looking out the window of the Mercedes. Her private driver, Stanley, got out of the car and pointed to a faded sign hanging on a garage. "Ms. Rebecca, there's an auto shop over there. Maybe they can take a look." "An auto shop in this place? Stanley, have you lost your mind?" "Ma'am, the car won't start. We have no choice." Rebecca took a deep breath, adjusted her navy blue Ralph Lauren blazer, and stepped out of the vehicle. Her Manolo Blahnik heels clicked on the uneven asphalt. She walked toward the auto shop with her nose wrinkled, as if the air there were contaminated. Mike's auto shop was open. 3 old cars occupied the small yard. An elderly man with grey hair waited sitting in a plastic chair, flipping through a yellowed newspaper. A woman with grocery bags was chatting animatedly with a young woman in a nursing uniform. Michael James Wilson was halfway under a blue Beetle when he heard the heels approaching. He slid out, wiped his hands on a rag, and stood up. At 40 years old, his face was marked by work, and he had a gentle smile that contrasted with the dirt of his profession. "Good afternoon. How can I help you?" Rebecca looked him up and down. A grey t-shirt stained with grease, faded jean shorts, worn-out sneakers, and a black cap that partially hid his dark hair. She sighed impatiently. "My car broke down. It needs to be fixed now." "What kind of problem is it having?" "How should I know? That's what mechanics are for, right?" Mike remained calm. He was used to all kinds of customers. "I can take a look. Where's the vehicle?" Rebecca pointed to the Mercedes parked on the street. Mike whistled softly. "Nice car. I'll get my tools." While Mike headed to the Mercedes, Rebecca stood in the middle of the auto shop, obviously uncomfortable. The man with the newspaper greeted her with a nod, but she didn't even respond. The woman with the bags tried to start a conversation. "First time here, dear? Mike is very good. He's been fixing my Civic for 15 years. "Good for you," Rebecca replied, fiddling with her phone. Mike lifted the hood of the Mercedes and began examining the engine. After a few minutes, he returned to the shop. "It's a problem with the fuel pump. I'll need a part. I can get it by tomorrow morning." "Tomorrow? Are you crazy? I need the car now." "Ma'am, it's an imported Mercedes. The part isn't easy to find." Rebecca lost her patience. Her voice echoed throughout the shop. "Listen here, you. I don't care about your difficulties. I'll pay whatever it takes to have my car running in an hour. Even if I had the part, the repair would take more time." "More time? Do you really not understand who you're talking to?" The atmosphere grew tense. The other customers stopped talking and watched the scene. Mike remained calm, but Rebecca was just getting started. "Let me guess. 40 years old, single, living with your mother? I bet you can't even get a girlfriend." The man with the newspaper closed it, indignant. The woman with the bags shook her head in disapproval. Mike felt his face grow hot, but he didn't respond. "Men like you are a problem for society. Without ambition, no future, no worth at all. They live in this mediocrity, thinking it's normal." "Ma'am, please." "Please what? I'm telling the truth. Look at you, dirty, poorly dressed, working in this awful place. What woman would want to be with someone like that?" Mike took a deep breath. His hands trembled slightly, but he kept his voice calm. "I'll see what I can do for your car." "That's right. Do your job and stop making excuses." Rebecca left the auto shop to call her office. Stanley waited awkwardly beside the Mercedes. The other customers remained silent for a few moments. "What an unpleasant woman," murmured the lady with the shopping bags. "Poor Mike. He didn't deserve that," added the man with the newspaper. Mike returned beneath the Beetle, but his concentration was shaken. Rebecca's words echoed in his mind. Single, at 40 years old. Worthless. No future. He had heard similar comments before, but never with such cruelty. 20 minutes later, Rebecca returned to the auto shop, speaking loudly on her phone. "Richard, I don't want to hear about the problems. I need to be there in 2 hours or we'll lose the contract." "What do you mean we'll have to reschedule? Have you lost your mind?" She hung up angrily and approached Mike. "So, have you fixed it yet?" "Mom, as I explained, I need the part." "Are you deaf or pretending? I said I'll pay whatever's necessary. It's not about money. The part isn't available nearby." Rebecca moved closer, speaking disdainfully. "You know what's wrong with people like you? Lack of vision, lack of drive. If it were me, I'd find a way." "How?" "I don't know. Call other places, go get the part. Do something useful with your life." Mike stopped what he was doing and looked directly at her. "Mom, I'll make some calls. Please wait here." He entered the small back room of the auto shop and picked up an old telephone. Rebecca took the opportunity to examine the surroundings more closely. The walls were covered with organized tools, calendars from old auto shops, and some yellowed photographs. One caught her attention. It was a graduation photo of an engineering class. In the middle of the group, she recognized Mike's younger face wearing a gown and cap. Rebecca looked closer, confused. This didn't make sense. "Stanley, come look at this." The driver approached and observed the photo. "It's Mike, ma'am, but it looks like a graduation in engineering from what's written here." Rebecca continued examining the wall. There was a framed diploma, somewhat hidden behind some tools. It was for Michael James Wilson, graduated in mechanical engineering from the University of Chicago. The date was from 20 years ago. "This can't be right," she murmured. Mike returned from the room holding a paper with notes. "I managed to locate the part. It's in Evanston. I can go get it now, but it'll take at least 3 hours." "3 hours? That's ridiculous." "It's the best I can do, ma'am." Rebecca pointed to the photo on the wall. "Is this you?" Mike looked where she indicated and his expression changed. "Yes." "You have an engineering degree?" "I do." "Then what are you doing working in this auto shop?" Mike hesitated. He didn't like talking about his personal life, especially after the humiliation he had suffered. "It's a long story. I'm waiting." Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now, continuing. "I'd prefer not to go into details. I'll go get your part." Mike grabbed the keys to an old motorcycle and headed for the street. Rebecca was intrigued. An engineer graduated from UC working as a mechanic in a neighborhood auto shop. That didn't make sense. She decided to use the time to investigate further. She spoke with the man with the newspaper, who introduced himself as Oliver. "Have you known Mike for long?" "About 15 years. He's a golden guy. He always helps everyone here in the neighborhood." "What do you mean helps?" "Oh, ma'am, Mike does much more than fix cars. When someone is going through a tough time, he finds a way to help. I've seen him fix cars for free for single mothers, lend money to people who need to buy medicine." Rebecca listened in silence. That didn't match the image she had created of the man. "And why does he work here if he's an engineer?" Oliver lowered his voice as if telling a secret. "Because of his mother, Mrs. Barbara. She has some memory problems, you know. Mike has been taking care of her alone for many years." "Memory problems? Alzheimer's? It started about 10 years ago. Mike was an engineer at a big company, but he had to leave everything to take care of her." Rebecca felt something strange in her stomach, a feeling she couldn't identify. "He never married?" "Came close a few times, but it's hard for him. Mrs. Barbara needs constant care. What woman would accept a situation like that?" The businesswoman fell silent. The cruel words she had said about Mike being single at 40 took on a different weight. "Is he a good mechanic?" "The best in the area, but they say he used to know a lot about industrial machines before. He even invented some things out there." "What kind of things?" "I'm not sure. People say he created some equipment that saves energy in factories, but that was before he opened the auto shop." Rebecca stepped away from Oliver and called her personal assistant. "Philip, I need you to research a person for me, Michael James Wilson. Mechanical engineer, graduated from UC 20 years ago. Right now, Ms. Rebecca. Right now. It's urgent. While waiting, she observed the activity in the auto shop. Simple people came and went, always greeting Stanley with affection. An elderly lady arrived walking slowly, carrying a heavy bag. "Stanley, where's Mike?" she asked. "He went out to solve a problem, Mrs. Barbara. Should be back in a few hours." Rebecca approached. The woman was about 70 years old, white hair tied in a simple bun and old but clean clothes. Her blue eyes seemed confused. "Who are you?" "I'm Mike's mother. He told me to come here if I forgot the way home." "Forgot the way?" Mrs. Barbara smiled innocently. "Sometimes I get lost. My head's been a bit bad, but Mike always finds me." Rebecca observed the lady more carefully. Her clothes were simple but well kept. Her hands trembled slightly as she fumbled with the bag. "Do you live far from here?" "I don't know. I live with my son. He's a very good boy, you know, takes good care of me." Stanley approached and offered a chair to Mrs. Barbara. "Would you like a glass of water, Mrs. Barbara?" "Thank you, dear. Do you know my Mike?" "Yes, I do. He's my friend." "Do." "He's—" Rebecca felt her phone vibrate. It was Philip. "Ms. Rebecca, I got some information about Michael James Wilson." "Go on." Mechanical engineer, graduated from UC in 2005, worked at Midwest Engineering for 8 years, was promoted quickly and became head of engineering. Has several patents registered in his name. Patents for what? Industrial automation systems and energy efficiency equipment. One of the patents was sold to a German company for $2 million in 2010. Rebecca almost dropped the phone. $2 million. That's right. But he left the company in 2013. Since then, there's no professional record of him. Anything else? Yes. He was a finalist for a National Innovation Award in 2012. His invention revolutionized energy efficiency in large industries. Rebecca hung up the phone, stunned. The man she had humiliated wasn't just an ordinary mechanic. He was a brilliant engineer who had given up a promising career. She looked at Mrs. Barbara, who was chatting animatedly with Stanley about cake recipes. The puzzle pieces were falling into place in the businesswoman's mind. An hour later, Mike returned with the Mercedes part. He was sweaty and tired from the motorcycle trip to Evanston. "Mom, what are you doing here?" he asked, concerned. "I came looking for you, my son. I got lost on my way to the bakery." Mike hugged Mrs. Barbara affectionately and helped her sit comfortably. "Don't worry, Mom. I'll take you home now." "No need, Mike. I know the way," she said, confused. "I know you do, Mom, but I'll come along to keep you company." Rebecca observed the interaction between mother and son. Mike's tenderness and patience completely contrasted with the image she had created of him. "Mike, can I talk to you?" she said, approaching. "What can I do for you, Ma'am?" "About what happened earlier. I wanted to—" "No need to say anything. I'll fix your car, and that's it. But I need to. I didn't know you were an engineer." Mike stopped handling the tools and looked at her. "And does that change anything?" "Yes, it does. You could be making a lot of money at a big company." "I could." "Then why are you here?" Mike looked at Mrs. Barbara, who was flipping through an old magazine. "Because some things are more important than money." "What do you mean?" "My mother needs me. I can't leave her alone." "But there are caregivers, specialized homes." "Ma'am, my mother isn't a problem to be outsourced. It's my responsibility and my pleasure to take care of her." Rebecca felt a tightness in her chest. She had never thought about caring for her own mother with such dedication. "Your mother, does she have Alzheimer's?" "She does. Diagnosed 10 years ago." "And you left engineering for that?" "I did." She was getting confused, getting lost on the street, forgetting to eat. "I couldn't leave her in an institution." "But your career?" "My career isn't worth more than my mother's dignity." Mike began installing the new part in the Mercedes. Rebecca watched silently, processing everything she had discovered. "People here in the neighborhood told me you help a lot of folks. People talk too much. Is it true that you fix cars for free? Sometimes, when someone really needs it." "And why do you do that?" Mike stopped working and looked directly at her. "Why wouldn't I? If I can help someone and it doesn't harm me, what's the problem? You don't make money. I make enough to live. I don't need more than that. Rebecca tried to understand his logic but couldn't. In her world, everything revolved around maximum profit. It doesn't make sense. To you, maybe not. To me, it makes all the sense in the world. Mike finished the installation and started the Mercedes. The engine ran perfectly. There, your car is fixed. How much do I owe? $200 for the part and $50 for labor. Rebecca was surprised. At any import car shop, she would pay at least $1,000 for this repair. That's all? It's the fair price. She took $500 from her wallet and handed it to Mike. Keep the change. No need, ma'am, $250 is enough. But you went all the way to Evanston to get the part. It's part of the service, Rebecca insisted, but Mike refused to take more money. She put the money away, increasingly confused by his behavior. Mike, can I ask a personal question? Go ahead. Do you regret leaving engineering? Mike looked at Mrs. Barbara, who was dozing in the chair. Never. Every day I spend with my mother is a gift. Money we can earn again, but lost time with loved ones never comes back. Rebecca felt her eyes well up. She hardly ever saw her own mother, who lived alone in a luxury apartment in Lincoln Park. Your mother? Does she recognize you? Most days, yes, but there are difficult moments. Sometimes she mistakes me for my father, who passed away. Other times she doesn't recognize me. And how do you deal with that? With patience and love. Even when she doesn't recognize me, I know who she is. She's my mother, the woman who raised me, who taught me values. She deserves all the care in the world. Rebecca said goodbye quietly and got into the Mercedes. During the entire drive to her office, she couldn't stop thinking about the conversation with Mike. She was late for the meeting and lost the $15 million contract. But for the first time in a long while, that didn't seem like the most important thing in the world. That night, Rebecca called her mother. "Mom, how are you?" "Rebecca?" What a surprise. "Is everything all right, dear?" "Yes, Mom. I just wanted to know how your day was." "Oh, dear. The same as always. I woke up, had coffee, read a bit. The loneliness is hard, you know." "The loneliness?" "Yes, honey. Sometimes I go days without talking to anyone. Only the cleaning lady comes here twice a week." Rebecca felt a pang in her heart. When was the last time she had visited her mother? She couldn't remember. "Mom, how about you come have dinner with me tomorrow?" "Really, dear? You're not too busy?" "I'm never too busy for you." "That's wonderful. It's been so long since we've had a proper talk." After hanging up, Rebecca became thoughtful. How had she become so distant from the people who truly mattered? The next morning, she stopped by Mike's auto shop on her way to work. She wanted to thank him again for fixing her car. "Good morning, Mike." "Good morning, Ma'am. Any problems with the Mercedes?" "No, it's working perfectly. I came to thank you." "No need, it's part of the job." Rebecca watched Mrs. Barbara sweeping the shop's yard with slow but determined movements. "Does your mother help at the shop?" "She likes to feel useful. She does some simple tasks when she's feeling well. And on bad days I take care of her at home. I close the shop and stay with her." "Don't you lose money?" "I do, but I gain other things." "Like what?" "Precious moments. Yesterday she remembered a song she used to sing to me when I was a child. We sang together for an hour. It was worth more than any money." Rebecca felt tears in her eyes. When was the last time she had spent a whole hour just talking with her mother? "Mike, can I ask a strange question?" "Of course. How do you manage to be so patient?" "I'm not perfect, ma'am. Sometimes I get tired, stressed, sad. But then I remember everything my mother did for me." "What do you mean?" "She worked as a cleaning lady for 20 years to give me an education. She woke up at 4 in the morning, came back at midnight. She never complained, never said she was tired. She always had a smile for me." Mike looked at Mrs. Barbara with tenderness. "When I got accepted into UC, she cried with joy. She said all the struggle had been worth it. Now it's my turn to give back." "And your inventions? Your patents?" "I kept developing some things here at the shop. Nothing grand, but it helps increase the income. I heard one of your inventions was sold for a lot of money. It was. I used the money to buy our house and invest in my mother's treatment. Treatment? Special medications, physical therapy, appointments with specialists. What was left is saved for emergencies. Rebecca was impressed. The man she had judged as a failure was, in fact, an example of character. Mike, have you ever thought about going back to engineering, hiring a caregiver for your mother? I've thought about it, but I don't want a stranger taking care of her. My mother took care of me with love. I want to do the same for her, even if it means giving up a promising career, especially because of that. Professional success without personal meaning is empty. Rebecca said goodbye and went to the office with her mind buzzing with thoughts. She had built a business empire, but she felt empty inside. Throughout the week, she kept returning to the auto shop with different excuses. Sometimes she said she wanted to check the car. Other times she asked about preventive maintenance. In truth, she was fascinated by the dynamic between Mike and his mother. She observed how he had infinite patience when Mrs. Barbara repeated the same question 10 times, how he smiled when she told stories that made no sense, how he reassured her when she became confused about where she was. One day, Rebecca witnessed a scene that touched her deeply. Mrs. Barbara had gotten lost between the auto shop and the bakery on the corner. Mike received a desperate call from the baker and ran out to look for her, leaving customers waiting. He found his mother sitting in a square 3 blocks away, crying because she couldn't remember where she lived. "Mom, I'm here," said Mike, kneeling in front of her. "Mike, my boy, I can't remember the way home." "Don't worry, Mom, I'll take you. You're not mad at me." "Why would I be mad? You didn't do anything wrong." "But I got lost." "Everyone gets lost sometimes. What matters is that we're together now." Rebecca watched everything from a distance, her heart heavy. She tried to imagine how she would react if it were her mother in the same situation. She'd probably be impatient, irritated, embarrassed. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now continuing. That afternoon, Rebecca made a decision. She cancelled an important meeting and went to visit her mother in the Lincoln Park apartment. Margaret Mitchell was 73 years old and had lived alone since she was widowed 5 years earlier. The apartment was luxurious but cold. There were no recent family photos, only old portraits in silver frames. "Rebecca, what a surprise," said Miss Margaret, opening the door. "Hi, Mom, I came to make that visit we promised." "That's wonderful, dear. Come in, come in. Would you like some coffee?" The apartment was impeccable, but Rebecca noticed there was only food for one person in the refrigerator. Her mother was thinner than the last time they had seen each other. "Mom, are you eating properly?" "Oh dear, when you live alone, you don't feel much like cooking." "Why didn't you tell me?" "I can hire someone to cook for you." "No need, sweetheart. I manage just fine." They talked for 2 hours. Miss Margaret talked about her lonely routine, how much she missed her husband, about the neighbors who no longer greeted her. "Dear, can I ask you a question?" "Of course, Mom. Are you happy?" The question took Rebecca by surprise. "What do you mean?" "Your life. Are you happy with everything you've achieved?" Rebecca thought about the question. She had money, success, recognition, but happiness. How long had it been since she had felt truly happy? "I don't know, Mom. I think so." "You work so much, dear. Sometimes I'm afraid you might forget to live." "What do you mean, forget to live?" "Living is more than working and making money. It's having relationships, taking care of the people we love, making a difference in others' lives." Rebecca remembered Mike caring for Mrs. Barbara. He was truly living, while she was merely existing. "Mom, how about you come live with me for a while?" "Dear, are you sure? Your apartment is so modern. I'm just an old-fashioned woman." "I'm sure, Mom. I want to take care of you." Miss Margaret began to cry. "I've been waiting years for you to say that, dear." Rebecca hugged her mother, feeling guilty for taking so long to offer. The following week, Miss Margaret moved into Rebecca's apartment. The businesswoman hired a part-time caregiver, but made sure to spend mornings and evenings with her mother. It was a period of readjustment for both of them. Rebecca discovered things about her mother she had never noticed before. Miss Margaret was an excellent cook, loved plants, and had an impressive memory for family stories. "Daughter, did you know your grandfather was a carpenter?" "I didn't, Mum." "He was. He made the most beautiful furniture in town. He said working with your hands was a form of art." Rebecca thought of Mike working at the auto shop. There was art in what he did too. A month later, she returned to the auto shop for a checkup on the Mercedes. Mike greeted her with his usual gentle smile. "How are you, ma'am?" "Rebecca. You can call me Rebecca." "How are you, Rebecca?" "Well, my mother came to live with me." "That's great. I'm sure she was happy." "She was, and so was I." Mike smiled and began examining the car. Rebecca watched Mrs. Barbara helping Oliver organize the tools. "How is your mother?" "She has good days and bad days. Yesterday was a difficult day. She didn't recognize me for a few hours." "How do you deal with that?" "I remember she's still here. I can still hug her, take care of her, show my love." Many people lose their parents without warning. Rebecca was moved. She had almost missed the chance to live with her mother through pure neglect. "Mike, can I make a strange proposal?" "What?" "How about if I funded an experimental treatment for your mother?" Mike stopped working and looked at her. "What do you mean?" "I researched Alzheimer's. There are new treatments, medications in testing phases. I can cover everything." "Rebecca, that must cost a fortune." "It's not a problem. I want to do this. But why?" "Because you taught me something important. You taught me the value of taking care of those we love." Mike was silent for a few moments. "I don't know what to say." "Say you accept. Your mother deserves every possible chance." "She does, but I can't accept charity." "It's not charity, Mike, it's gratitude." "Gratitude for what?" "For changing my perspective on life." Mike looked at Mrs. Barbara, who was laughing at something Oliver had said. "If you really want to do this, I accept. For my mother." Rebecca smiled and extended her hand to him. "Thank you, Mike." "Why are you thanking me?" "I'm the one who should be thanking you. You gave me something more valuable than any money can buy. You gave me a lesson in humanity." The following days were filled with intense research. Rebecca used her connections to find the best Alzheimer's specialists in the country. She discovered an experimental treatment being tested at Northwestern Memorial that had shown promising results. The process to include Mrs. Barbara in the program would be complicated and expensive, but Rebecca was determined. She paid for detailed exams, consultations with specialists, and all treatment costs. 3 weeks later, Mrs. Barbara began the new medication protocol. The doctors warned that results weren't guaranteed and would take months to appear. During this period, Rebecca became a regular visitor at the auto shop, not just to follow Mrs. Barbara's condition, but because she had developed a genuine friendship with Mike. He inspired her with his simple yet meaningful life philosophy. She began rethinking her business priorities, focusing less on maximum profit and more on the social impact of her ventures. "Mike, have you ever thought about reopening an engineering company?" "Sometimes, but I don't want to leave the auto shop. People here depend on me." "What if you could do both?" "What do you mean?" "What if you opened a company that brought technology to this neighborhood? Created jobs right here?" Mike stopped working on the car engine and looked at her. "Are you serious?" "Very serious. It could be a factory for energy-efficient equipment. You already have the patents. I have the capital." "Rebecca, that would be a dream. I've always wanted to contribute to this community's development." "Then let's make it happen." "But what about my mother? She can stay at the company during the day. We can create a special space for her." Mike was moved by the proposal. It was the chance to unite his passion for engineering with his commitment to the community and care for his mother. "I need to think." "Of course. But know that I am serious." That night, Mike talked at length with Mrs. Barbara about the proposal. She was having a good day and understood the situation perfectly. "My son, you have always been brilliant. You can't waste your talent." "But what about you, Mom?" "I will be fine. You will be nearby, and Rebecca seems like a good person." "Are you sure?" "I am, Mike. Your dreams are important too." The next day, he accepted Rebecca's proposal. They spent weeks developing the project. It would be a factory for industrial automation equipment that would generate 200 direct jobs in the region. The initial investment would be 8 million Rs. Rebecca would provide the capital and Mike the technology. Profits would be split 50-50, but a percentage would be allocated to social projects in the community. Dear listener, if you are enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we are just starting out, now continuing. As the plans took shape, Mrs. Barbara continued her experimental treatment. After 3 months, the doctors noticed a slight improvement in her cognition. She was more lucid for longer periods, and her mental confusion had decreased. "Mike, is the medicine working?" she asked during an appointment. "It seems so, Mum. How do you feel?" "Clearer. I still forget some things, but I don't feel so lost." The doctor explained that the treatment would not reverse the disease, but could significantly slow its progression. "In cases like Mrs. Barbara's, we can stabilize the condition for years. She can maintain a good quality of life for a long time." Mike hugged his mother, moved. Rebecca watched the scene with tears in her eyes. 6 months later, the Wilson Mitchell Industries was inaugurated on a plot in Hope Village. The modern building contrasted with the simple houses around it, but blended harmoniously into the landscape. On Inauguration Day, hundreds of people from the community attended. Mike gave an emotional speech about the importance of dreaming big without forgetting one's roots. "This company was born from a life lesson. I learned that true success is not in what we achieve, but in what we do for others." Rebecca also spoke, sharing how the experience had transformed her. "I was someone who judged people's worth by their bank account. Mike taught me that real value lies in character, kindness, and love for one's neighbor." Mrs. Barbara was present, lucid and proud. She cut the inauguration ribbon alongside her son and Rebecca. "My Mike has always been special," she told the crowd. "Now everyone can see." The auto shop continued to operate, now with 3 hired mechanics. Mike spent mornings at the factory and afternoons at the shop, always accompanied by Mrs. Barbara. 1 year after the inauguration, the company was already exporting equipment throughout Latin America. Mike developed new technologies that revolutionized the industrial automation sector. Rebecca completely changed her way of doing business. She created a social responsibility program that included scholarships, free medical care, and professional training for the community. She also kept the habit of visiting the auto shop regularly, not just for professional reasons, but because she had developed a genuine appreciation for the simplicity and authenticity of the people there. "Rebecca, can I ask a personal question?" Mike said during one of these visits. "Of course. Do you regret getting to know our reality?" "What do you mean?" "Your life was simpler before. Fewer social responsibilities, less emotional involvement." Rebecca thought about the question. "Mike, I had an empty life. Rich, but empty. Now I have a purpose. And is it worth it?" "It's worth more than all the money in the world." 2 years after the humiliation at the auto shop, Rebecca was unrecognizable. She was still a successful businesswoman, but now with social awareness and well-defined priorities. She spent every weekend with her mother, who was in good health and loved helping with the company's social projects. Mrs. Margaret had become a sort of grandmother to the community, always willing to listen to employees' problems and offer advice. Mike also changed, but in a different way. He remained the same kind and generous person, but now with opportunities to impact lives on a larger scale. His mother was stable thanks to the experimental treatment. On bad days, she still got confused, but the episodes were less frequent and less severe. "Mike, are you happy?" asked Rebecca during a meeting at the company. "Very. And you?" "For the first time in decades, I can say yes." "What changed?" "I learned that happiness doesn't come from what we accumulate, but from what we share." Mike smiled. "My mother always said that, but sometimes we need to hear it from different people to understand." "Your mother is wise." "Yes, and you've become wise too." 3 years after their first encounter, Wilson Mitchell Industries was a national benchmark in innovation and social responsibility. Mike had been invited to lecture at universities about social entrepreneurship. Rebecca developed a microcredit program that helped hundreds of families start small businesses. She also created a community daycare that served employees' children. One day, a young journalist approached Rebecca to write a story about business transformation. "Ms. Rebecca, what really motivated you to change your way of doing business?" "A mechanic who taught me about values." "How so?" "I humiliated a man for judging that he had no worth. I discovered he had more value than I thought possible." "Can you tell me the story?" Rebecca narrated the entire journey, from the humiliation at the auto shop to the business partnership. The journalist was impressed. "And do you still keep in touch?" "We're partners and friends. He constantly teaches me about humility and purpose." "What would you say to other business owners who only think about profit?" "That true profit comes when our success also benefits other people." The story was published on the cover of a national magazine and became a reference in business schools. Mike was embarrassed by the exposure, but Rebecca made sure to honor him publicly. "This man saved my soul without even knowing it," she said in a television interview. "He taught me that there's something more important than status, human dignity." 5 years later, Mrs. Barbara was 78 years old and surprisingly well. The experimental treatment had resulted in an almost complete stabilization of her condition. She helped at the company's reception and was beloved by all employees. "Mrs. Barbara, how do you feel working here?" asked a new employee. "Proud. My son was always special, but now everyone can see it." "Special how?" "He has a big heart. Since he was little, he helped everyone. I always knew he would do important things." Mike, who was listening to the conversation from afar, approached. "Mom, are you bragging again?" "It's not bragging, it's the truth. You're my pride, Mike." "You're mine, Mom." Rebecca watched the interaction from her desk in the executive office. Even after 5 years, she still got emotional seeing the love between mother and son. She herself had become very close to her mother. Miss Margaret lived with her and actively participated in all the company's social projects. That day, Rebecca made an important decision. She went down to the reception where Mike was talking with Mrs. Barbara. "Mike, I need to talk to you." "Of course. Is there a problem?" "No." "A proposal." They headed to the meeting room. Rebecca had a solemn expression. "Mike, you changed my life in ways you can't imagine." "Rebecca, you've already told me that." "Let me finish. I want to make you the majority partner of the company." Mike was speechless. "What do you mean?" "I want you to have 60% of the company. You deserve it." "Rebecca, I can't accept this." "Why not?" "Because it wouldn't be fair. You invested the initial money. And you invested something more valuable, your knowledge, your passion, your soul. This company only exists because of who you are." Mike was moved but kept resisting. "I can't accept." "Then accept it as a gift from life. You gave up a brilliant career to take care of your mother. You deserve to be rewarded." "Rebecca. Besides, I want you to know, I learned to look beyond appearances. I learned that a person's true value isn't in what they have, but in who they are." Mike hugged Rebecca, emotional. "Thank you for everything." "I'm the one who should thank you, Mike. You saved my humanity." The stock transfer ceremony was held at the company itself, with all employees present. Mike gave a speech that moved everyone. "When I met Rebecca, she judged me by appearances, but she had the humility to recognize her mistake and the courage to change. That makes her an extraordinary person." Rebecca also spoke. "Mike taught me that success without purpose is empty. Today our success has meaning because it impacts lives, transforms communities, generates hope." Mrs. Barbara was in the front row, applauding proudly. Mrs. Margaret was by her side, also emotional. "What a beautiful story, Barbara," said Mrs. Margaret. "Yes, Margaret. Our children learned that love is worth more than any wealth." After the ceremony, there was a party at the company. Employees, family members, and people from the community celebrated together. Mike and Rebecca talked in a more secluded corner. "Mike, can I make a confession?" "Of course. That first day when I humiliated you, I was going through a difficult time. I had lost an important bid and was taking out my frustration on you. Rebecca, that's in the past. But I want you to know, there was no excuse for my behavior. You didn't deserve that. Maybe it was necessary. If it weren't for that day, we would never have gotten close. Do you really believe that? I do. Sometimes life puts us in difficult situations to teach us important lessons. What lesson did I need to learn? Humility, empathy, the value of simple people. And what lesson did you need to learn? Mike thought for a moment. That my kindness could have a greater reach, that I could help more people without abandoning my mother. So we both grew. We grew and became better. They watched the ongoing party, people from all social classes mingling harmoniously, united by the common purpose of building a better community. Rebecca, do you still remember what you were like before we met? I do. I was an empty person, focused only on accumulating wealth. And now? Now I have purpose. I know why I wake up every day. What is your purpose? To make a difference in people's lives. To use my privilege to create opportunities for those who didn't have the same chances as me. Mike smiled. That's a beautiful purpose. And yours? Has it changed? It remains the same, to take care of those I love and help those in need. Only now I can do it on a larger scale. Is your mother still a priority? She always will be. But now I can take care of her, while also taking care of others. They returned to the party and spent the rest of the evening celebrating with the community. 2 years later, the Wilson Mitchell Company had become a model of social business in the United States. Universities brought students to see the project, and entrepreneurs from other countries came seeking inspiration. Mike had become a national reference in innovation with social purpose. He regularly gave lectures on how to reconcile business success with community responsibility. Rebecca developed a business transformation methodology that was being replicated in other regions of the country. She created a consultancy specialized in helping companies develop social awareness. Mrs. Barbara, at 80 years old, remained stable and active. She had become a kind of company mascot, always present at events and adored by everyone. One day, during a routine medical visit, the specialist gave surprising news. Mrs. Barbara, your condition has been stable for 5 years. It's rare to see such positive progress. Does that mean she won't get worse? Asked Mike. I can't guarantee it, but she could maintain this quality of life for many more years. What do you attribute this stabilization to? To the treatment, of course, but also to the loving and stimulating environment she lives in. Love is the best medicine for any illness. Mike hugged his mother, moved. Rebecca was present at the appointment and was also emotional. Mrs. Barbara, you are an example of strength, said Rebecca. No, dear, I'm just a mother who was loved by a special son. You are special too. I only did what any mother would do. I loved my son unconditionally. Not all mothers do that, Mrs. Barbara. Then they're missing the best part of life. That night, Mike and Rebecca talked about the company's future and their personal lives. Mike, have you ever thought about getting married? I have, but it's hard to find someone who understands my situation. What situation? My mother will always be a priority. Not everyone accepts that. The right person will accept it. They'll even admire it. You think so? I'm sure. Your dedication to your mother is one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen. And you? Have you ever thought about marrying again? Rebecca had been married for 10 years, but divorced 15 years ago. Her ex-husband couldn't stand her excessive dedication to work. I have. But now it would be different. I wouldn't be the same obsessive woman I was. How would it be? I'd be a woman who understands the value of relationships, who knows how to balance work and personal life. Do you think you'd find someone who accepts your past? The past is part of who we are. The right person will accept me completely. They continued talking late into the night about life, relationships, dreams, and plans for the future. 3 months later, Mike met Marina, a special education teacher who worked with the elderly. She was familiar with the challenges of caring for people with Alzheimer's and immediately admired Mike's dedication to his mother. Your mother is beautiful, Mike, said Marina the first time she met her. Thank you. She is my life. I can see that. It's rare to find such dedicated children. I'm just returning the love she gave me. Marina was impressed with Mike's patience and affection toward Mrs. Barbara. She started visiting the company and became involved in the social projects. Rebecca was happy to see Mike finding someone special. She herself had started dating Charles, a volunteer doctor who worked at the company's community clinic. "Rebecca, you've changed a lot," said Charles during dinner. "How so?" "When we met, you were focused only on work. Now I see a complete woman. I learned that life is more than work." "What taught you that?" "A wise mechanic who cares for his mother with Alzheimer's." "Tell me the story." Rebecca narrated the entire journey, from the humiliation at the auto shop to the current partnership. Charles was impressed. "It's an incredible transformation story. It's a redemption story. I was a bad person who learned to be good." "You weren't bad, Rebecca, you were lost. What's the difference? Just bad people don't change, lost people can be found. And it was Mike who found me. Mike showed you the way, but you chose to follow." 6 months later, Mike proposed to Marina. The ceremony was held in the company courtyard, with the whole community present. Mrs. Barbara was radiant, wearing a light blue dress that Rebecca had bought especially for her. "My son looks so handsome," she said to anyone who would listen. "You look even more beautiful, Mrs. Barbara," Marina replied, kissing her new mother-in-law on the cheek. "Will you take good care of my Mike?" "I will, Mrs. Barbara, and I'll take care of you too." "That's good, my dear. Now our family has grown." Rebecca was the maid of honor at the wedding. In her speech, she moved all those present. "Mike taught me that true love knows no bounds. The love he has for his mother inspired my own transformation. Today, I see him finding romantic love with someone who understands and admires his values. Marina, you have chosen an extraordinary man." After the wedding, Marina moved into Mike and Mrs. Barbara's house. The living arrangement was harmonious from day one. Marina had experience with special care and brought new ideas to stimulate Mrs. Barbara's cognition. 1 year later, Rebecca also married Charles. The ceremony was more intimate, but equally moving. Mike was the best man and gave a speech about transformation and second chances. "Rebecca taught me that it's never too late to change, that a person can set pride aside and become better. Charles, you are marrying a woman who has learned the true value of life." The two couples became great friends. They had dinner together weekly, sharing experiences and planning new projects for the company and the community. Mrs. Barbara loved the gatherings. She would prepare special sweets and tell old stories that made everyone laugh. "Mrs. Barbara, you are a natural storyteller," said Charles. "It's just that I've lived a lot, Doctor. When you live a lot, you have many stories to tell." "What was the happiest moment of your life?" Mrs. Barbara thought for a moment. "It was when I found out I was pregnant with Mike. Then it was seeing him graduate as an engineer, and now it's seeing him happy with Marina and fulfilling his dreams. 3 beautiful moments. Life is made of moments, Doctor. The secret is to recognize when they come." 5 years after Mike's wedding, the Wilson Mitchell Company had expanded to other cities. The social business model was being replicated in 15 U.S. states. Mike and Marina had 2 children, Peter, 3 years old, and Anna, 1 year old. Mrs. Barbara was 85 years old and loved being a grandmother. "Grandma, tell a story," Peter would ask whenever he visited her. "Which story do you want to hear, my love?" "The one about Daddy who became a prince." Mrs. Barbara would smile and tell an adapted version of Mike's life transformation. To her, her son had truly become a prince when he found his purpose in life. Rebecca and Charles had no children, but became adoptive aunt and uncle to the kids. They loved attending birthday parties and Sunday lunches at Mike's house. One day, Peter asked a question that surprised everyone. "Aunt Rebecca, why did you become friends with Daddy?" "What do you mean, Peter?" "Grandma said you didn't know each other before." Rebecca looked at Mrs. Barbara, who gave a mischievous smile. "It's true, Peter. Your dad taught me something very important." "What?" "That the most special people are sometimes in the simplest places." "Is Daddy special?" "Very special. He is kind, smart, and loves Grandma and you very much. Peter nodded, satisfied with the answer. Mrs. Barbara approached Rebecca. "Thank you for recognizing my son's worth," she whispered. "Thank you for raising such an upright man," Rebecca replied. 10 years after the first meeting at the auto shop, Rebecca was writing a book about her personal and business transformation. The title would be The Mechanic Who Changed My Life, A Lesson in Humanity. She showed the first chapters to Mike, who was embarrassed by the praise. "Rebecca, you're making me look like a saint. I'm telling the truth. You're an example of character. I'm just a normal person who tries to do the right thing. That's the definition of extraordinary character, doing the right thing even when no one is watching. You've changed too, Rebecca. You've become a completely different person. Because I had a good teacher." The book was published 2 years later and became a national bestseller. The proceeds were entirely donated to social inclusion projects in underprivileged communities. Mike continued avoiding media exposure, preferring to focus on work and family, but he fully supported the book project. "Why do you support sharing our story?" asked Rebecca. "Because it might inspire other people to change too." "Doesn't the exposure bother you?" "It does. But if our story can touch one person's heart, it's worth it." The book truly inspired many changes. Business people from across the country contacted them reporting transformations in their companies after reading the story. A businesswoman from Boston wrote an emotional letter to Rebecca. "Dear Rebecca, your story changed my life perspective. I was like you before, arrogant, prejudiced, focused only on profit. After reading your book, I decided to change. I created a social responsibility program at my company and improved my relationship with employees. Thank you for having the courage to share your transformation." Similar letters arrived every week. Rebecca was moved to see how her experience was impacting other lives. 15 years after their first meeting, Mrs. Barbara turned 90. The party was grand, held in the company hall with over 200 people. She was lucid and happy, surrounded by children, daughters-in-law, grandchildren, and lifelong friends. "Mrs. Barbara, what's the secret to reaching 90 in such good condition?" asked a journalist covering the event. "Love, my dear, lots of love. To love and be loved." "Anything else?" "Yes. Never lose faith in people. Even when they seem lost, there's always a chance for change." She looked at Rebecca, who was standing beside her. "This young lady here is proof of that. She came into our life lost and became family." Rebecca hugged Mrs. Barbara, moved. "You're the one who saved us, Mrs. Barbara. You raised a son who transforms lives. I raised him with love. Love always bears good fruit." At the same party, Mike announced a new expansion of the company. A research institute for social technology would be created to develop innovative solutions for underprivileged community problems. "This institute will be the legacy of our partnership," he said. "A place where knowledge and compassion come together to create a better world." Rebecca was moved by the announcement. It was exactly the kind of project she dreamed of implementing. The institute was inaugurated 2 years later, named the Barbara Wilson Institute, in honor of the family matriarch. Mrs. Barbara, at 92, cut the inaugural ribbon alongside her son, daughter-in-law, grandchildren, and Rebecca. "I never imagined my name would be on such a beautiful place," she said, admiring the modern building. "You deserve it, Mrs. Barbara. You're an inspiration to all of us," replied Rebecca. "I just loved my son." The rest was a consequence. The institute became a national reference in applied research for social development. Students from across the country came to study the innovative projects developed there. Mike, now 55, had become a respected figure in academic and business circles, but he remained the same simple and kind person as always. "Mike, do you consider yourself successful?" asked a college student during a lecture. "It depends on the definition of success. How do you define it?" "Success is being able to make a difference in the lives of people we love and people who need help." "And have you achieved it?" Mike looked at the audience where his mother, his wife, his children, and Rebecca were. "I have. I have a family I love, true friends, and the opportunity to help people every day. Is that success?" "For me, it's the greatest success possible." Rebecca, at 60, had become one of the most respected businesswomen in the country. But her greatest achievement was having become a better person. She kept the habit of visiting Mike's original auto shop, which still operated serving the local community. Whenever she felt lost or stressed, she went there to reconnect with her roots. "Why do you still come here?" asked Oliver, who at 85 still frequented the shop. "To remind myself where I learned the most important lessons of my life." "What lessons?" "Humility, compassion, the value of ordinary people." Mike was always special. He was, but it took me a while to recognize that. "The important thing is that you did." "That's true, Mr. Oliver. That's true." 20 years after their first meeting, the story of Mike and Rebecca had become a case study in business schools worldwide. The business model they created was being replicated in dozens of countries, always adapted to local realities, but maintaining the fundamental principles: social responsibility, community development, and valuing people. Mrs. Barbara, at 95, continued to be the beloved matriarch of the family and the company. Her clarity of mind was impressive for her age, and she remained actively involved in everyone's lives. One day, during a family gathering, she made a surprising announcement. "I want to take a trip." "Where to, Grandma?" asked Peter, now 18. "To the land where I was born. I want to revisit my childhood place before I go." Everyone was worried about the trip, but Mrs. Barbara was determined. "Mom, are you sure?" asked Mike. "I am, my son. I feel it's time to close a cycle." The trip was carefully organized. The whole family went along. Mike, Marina, Peter, Anna, Rebecca, Charles, and Mrs. Margaret, who at 85 had become a great friend of Mrs. Barbara. They visited the small town in Wisconsin where Mrs. Barbara was born. She showed them the house where she grew up, the school she attended, the church where she was baptized. "This place shaped who I am," she said, looking at the pastoral landscape. "How so, Grandma?" asked Anna, now 15. "Here I learned that the most important things in life are simple: family, friendship, honesty, work." "And did you pass these values on to Dad?" "I tried. It seems I succeeded." Mike hugged his mother, moved. "You did, Mom. And thank you so much for that. The trip was a special moment for the whole family. They spent a week in the town, learning about local history and strengthening family bonds. On the last day, Mrs. Barbara made a statement that touched everyone. "You know I could go at any time, right?" "Grandma, don't talk like that," protested Peter. "It's life, my love, but I want you to know I'm the happiest woman in the world." "Why?" asked Anna. "Because I've lived a life full of love. I had a wonderful husband, raised a good son, gained a dear daughter-in-law, have beautiful grandchildren, and even saw my family grow with special people like Rebecca and Charles." She looked at Rebecca. "You know I consider you a daughter, right?" Rebecca began to cry. "I consider you a mother too, Mrs. Barbara." "Then everything is fine. My mission here is complete." They returned to Chicago with hearts full of gratitude for the experience they had lived. 2 years later, Mrs. Barbara passed away peacefully in her sleep at 97 years old. She had lived a full life and left a legacy of love and wisdom. The funeral was a celebration of her life. Hundreds of people attended, from company employees to neighbors in the community. Mike gave a moving speech. "My mother taught me that life is worth living when it's lived with love. She loved unconditionally, forgave easily, and always saw the best in people." Rebecca also spoke. "Mrs. Barbara welcomed me when I was an arrogant stranger. She taught me that family isn't just about blood. It's about love, care, and acceptance." After the funeral, the family gathered to read a letter that Mrs. Barbara had left behind. "My dear children, grandchildren, and grandchildren of my heart. If you're reading this, it means my journey here has ended. Don't be sad. I lived a wonderful life full of love and purpose. Mike, my beloved son, thank you for sacrificing so much for me. You are my greatest pride. Continue being that kind and generous person. Marina, thank you for loving my son and for accepting me as your mother. You brought even more light into our family. Peter and Anna, You are my joy. Always remember the values I tried to teach: kindness, honesty, and love for others. Rebecca, my daughter of the heart, thank you for recognizing the worth of my Mike and for becoming part of our family. Your transformation is proof that it's never too late to change. Charles, thank you for taking care of Rebecca and for bringing so much joy into our lives. Margaret, thank you for your sincere friendship and the special moments we shared. My last request is that you stay united, that you continue helping those in need, and that you never forget, love is the only thing that truly matters in life. With all my love, Barbara. Everyone cried while reading the letter, but they also felt peace. Mrs. Barbara had passed on, but her legacy would live on in each of them. 1 year after Mrs. Barbara's passing, the Barbara Wilson Memorial was inaugurated at the company. It was a space dedicated to her memory, but also a community center for the elderly. My mother would have loved this place, said Mike during the inauguration. Why? Asked a journalist. Because it brings together everything she loved most: family, community, and care for the elderly. The memorial became one of the company's most cherished projects. Elderly people from the area gathered there for recreational activities, psychological support, and basic health care. Rebecca created a special program where company executives spent time with the elderly, listening to their stories and offering companionship. Why did you create this program? Asked an employee. So that other executives can learn what I learned. That wisdom doesn't come from books, it comes from life experience. And what do the elderly teach? Patience, gratitude, the importance of relationships, things you don't learn in an MBA. 5 years after Mrs. Barbara's passing, Mike and Rebecca were invited to speak at Stanford University about leadership with a social purpose. How do you define leadership? Asked a professor. Leadership is service, replied Mike. It's using your power and influence to improve other people's lives. And how did you develop that perspective? Asked a student. Rebecca answered, through a painful lesson in humility. I learned that judging people by appearances is the quickest way to miss growth opportunities. Can you elaborate? I humiliated a man because I considered him inferior. I discovered he was superior to me in every way that truly matters: character, compassion, wisdom. And did that change your way of leading? Completely. Today I try to listen more, judge less, and always look for potential in people, regardless of their background or social status. Mike added, and I learned that it's possible to maintain personal values while building something great. We don't need to become worse people to be successful. The lecture was very well received and generated invitations from other universities around the world. During one of these trips, Peter announced he wanted to follow in his father's footsteps. Dad, I want to study engineering and then work in the company. Are you sure, son? You can choose any career. I'm sure. I want to continue the family legacy. What legacy? Using knowledge to help people. Mike was moved by his son's response. I'm proud, Peter. But remember, what matters most isn't what you do, but how you do it. What do you mean? You can be an engineer, doctor, teacher, anything. What matters is doing it with love and dedication, always thinking about how you can help others. Anna also showed interest in pursuing a career in the social field. Aunt Rebecca, I want to be like you. What do you mean, Anna? I want to help companies be more humane. It's a beautiful field, Anna, but it requires a lot of study and dedication. I'm willing. I want to make a difference in the world. Rebecca smiled, remembering how her own values had changed over the years. 25 years after their first meeting at the auto shop, Mike was 65 and Rebecca 67. Both had become global references in purpose-driven business. Wilson Mitchell Industries was present in 12 countries and had directly impacted the lives of over 500,000 people through its social programs. The Barbara Wilson Institute had developed technologies that revolutionized how companies interact with underprivileged communities. Mike, do you consider yourself fulfilled? Rebecca asked during an evening conversation. Completely. And you? Me too. But sometimes I think about what my life would have been like if I hadn't met you. You probably would have been successful anyway. Financially, maybe, but it would have been an empty life. Why do you say that? Because I wouldn't have known the true meaning of success. What's the true meaning? Success is when your work benefits other people. When your life leaves the world a little better. Mike smiled. You learned the lesson well. I had a great teacher. We were each other's teachers. You taught me it's possible to dream big without losing humility. What do you mean? Before we met, I thought I had to choose between helping a few people up close or many people from afar. You showed me I can do both. And you showed me that ordinary people can do extraordinary things. Everyone can, Rebecca. You just need the courage to start. They watched the company's activity through the window. Employees leaving after a day's work, greeting each other, talking animatedly about personal and professional projects. Look at that scene, said Mike. What? Happy people leaving work. That's rare in the corporate world. Why is it different here? Because here people feel their work has meaning. They're not just making money, they're building something important. That's true. That makes all the difference. It does. When people feel they're contributing to something bigger than themselves, they work with passion. And we managed to create that. We did. But the credit isn't ours. It belongs to all the people who bought into our vision and helped build it. Rebecca reflected on the journey they had taken together. Mike, do you regret anything? I regret taking so long to meet you, he said, smiling. What do you mean? Imagine if we had met 20 years earlier. How many good things could we have done together? Maybe we weren't ready 20 years ago. What do you mean? I was too arrogant. You were too focused only on your mother. We needed those experiences to become who we are today. That's true. The timing was perfect, even though it was painful at first, especially because it was painful. The best lessons come from the hardest experiences. 30 years after their first meeting, Peter had graduated in engineering and was already working at the company developing new social technologies. Anna had become a consultant in corporate social responsibility. Mike, at 70 years old, had officially retired but continued visiting the company as an advisor. Rebecca, at 72, had also reduced her activities but maintained active participation in strategic decisions. One day, Peter asked a question that surprised his father. Dad, did you and Aunt Rebecca really hate each other at first? Not exactly hate, son. It was more misunderstanding. How so? She saw me as worthless because I was a poor mechanic. I saw her as shallow because she was rich and arrogant. And what changed? We discovered our first impressions were wrong. She wasn't shallow, she was lost. I wasn't worthless, I was unknown. What lesson does that teach? Mike thought about the question. That we should never judge people by first impressions, that everyone has a story, a reason for being who they are, and that everyone can change. Exactly. Rebecca changed completely. I changed too, in a different way. How did you change? I learned I can take care of my family and at the same time help many other people. Before I thought I had to choose one or the other. Anna, who was listening to the conversation, made an interesting observation. You two completed each other. How so? Asked Mike. Dad had kindness, but lacked ambition. Aunt Rebecca had ambition, but lacked kindness. Together, you created something perfect. Mike and Rebecca looked at each other, surprised by the depth of the young woman's observation. That's an interesting perspective, said Rebecca. It's true, agreed Mike. You inspired me to dream big. I inspired you to dream with purpose. And together, we changed the world around us. We changed our part of the world. And that's already a lot. At that moment, they received special news. Peter had developed a technology that would allow bringing drinking water to rural communities in a sustainable and affordable way. Dad, I want to dedicate this invention to Grandma Barbara's memory. Mike became emotional. She would be very proud, son. Why? Because you're using your talent to help people in need. That was exactly what she always wanted for our family. Peter's technology was implemented in 200 underserved communities, benefiting over 50,000 people. At an awards ceremony, he gave a speech that moved everyone present. This invention isn't mine. It's the result of values I learned from my family. My grandmother taught me about love, my father taught me about kindness, My mother taught me about dedication, and my Aunt Rebecca taught me about determination. What's the most important lesson you've learned? Asked a journalist. That true success is when our achievements benefit other people. There's no greater satisfaction than knowing your work improves lives. After the ceremony, the family gathered for dinner. It was a tradition they had maintained for decades. Peter, your grandmother would be very proud, said Marina. Do you really think so, Mum? I'm sure. She always said a grandmother's greatest pride is seeing her grandchildren using their talents for good. Rebecca added, Mrs. Barbara planted seeds of kindness in you. Now we're seeing the fruits. And the seeds will continue to be planted, said Anna. I want to teach my children the same values. What values? Asked Charles. Humility, compassion, determination, and love for others. Those are beautiful values, said Mike. These are our family values, answered Anna. End of story. Now tell me what you thought of the story and where you're following us from. If you have something to share with us, leave it in the comments with sincere words. Do you believe Rebecca's transformation was convincing? We'd love to read your opinion. Thank you so much for your company. Don't forget to leave your like and, most importantly, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss other moving stories.